Well, and you spanned a really interesting era, I think, because, you know, fans up here will remember you playing with, you know, Paolo Di Canio and guys like that, but then you saw the start of Wayne Rooney as well. You really saw a real maybe change in kind of the modern player sort of thing.
I think what you're alluding to, going, is that I played with players that carried me. No, I was very, very fortunate to play with some real quality players and iconic players, really. You know, you look at Wayne was just a freak. He really was. He was, you know, you get one of them probably in a lifetime. You know, it always makes me laugh a little bit because as when Wayne was coming through, we all knew about him, you know, and I think at the time it was Walter Smith who was brilliant with him. You know, there was a lot of pressure to try and push Wayne up through. You know, Wayne was playing in the under-18s at 14, you know, and he was just doing stupid things.
I played against him. He was a lot younger than me, and I think it must have been the 19s or something like that.
And we were all hearing about this lad doing amazing things, and this one Monday morning he turns up at the training ground, and he trains, he comes out, and he's like this young, real streetwise little, well, he wasn't little, solid little, well, he was small inside, but not. And he comes and he's just in awe of all the players, mainly Big Duncan and a few others. And next minute he gets a bag of balls, and he's the first on the training pitch before we go out. And he gets the balls out, and he's just chipping balls onto the crossbar from 18-yard box, then 25 yards, and then kept going back to halfway line. And then literally about 15 minutes before we started to do the warm-up, he said, take some shots. I mean, this is the first kid on his first day in training against seasoned pros. Yeah, I'm going goal now. And he's pulling balls up the top corner.
He thinks he's playing their part.
Honestly, that's what he's like.
Strength, though, wasn't it, at that age?
And he was awesome. And then he trained with us, and I was up against him a few times, and I'm marking him and stuff, and I'm saying he was doing things that he just shouldn't have been doing. You know, his brain was so advanced. It was incredible. His touch, his awareness, his movements. You know, as you'd expect, he goes on and does what he did. But he was, and I unfortunately had the unenviable task of trying to look after him.
See when he was
not easy.
See when he goes on the training pitch, right?
Yeah.
And you say he's in awe of everybody. How long a period does it go before you look and you go, oh, he just knows he's the best? He's not passing the safe pass, or he's not, you know, the things that happen in training with young players. How long a period is there before he goes, no, give me the ball, I'm going to do it?
His arrogance and his swagger was there from the first training session. He knew exactly what he needs to do. He was not in awe of anybody. He was in awe of the individual and what they'd done.
But when you're on the pitch,
but not as in ability of a footballer.
Right.
It was incredible. You
so
know,
you said you had an enviable task of looking after him. What do you mean? So was that the manager put that on you?
Well, yeah.
How did that play out?
So it was. So next minute, Walter obviously was there, and then David Moyes took over quite quickly after Walter, after that season. And so the gaffer said to me, you know, listen, this kid's got a bright future. We could all see that. He said, you know, you need to look after him. So I would then drop him off home after training, pick him up, and then he was asking for bits of advice because everything was just coming at him thick and fast. And I remember one pre-season we'd gone away, and we were over in Portugal, and David Moyes gone to me, Stubbsy, listen, whatever you do not let him drink. You know what's like, the press everywhere. There's cameras going to be following us. You know, do not let him drink. So anyway, we've trained, and the gaffers give us a night out. So he's come out, and I've said, listen to Wayne. I've said, Wayne, listen, you know, you can't have a drink. And he's gone, oh, come on, Stubbsy, fucking hell, seriously. You know, he said, I'm 16. So I said, listen, all right, I'll let you have a couple, but like, you can't drink the way we're drinking, you know, type of thing. It's just not possible. He's gone, okay, I'll just have a couple then. So anyway, drink, one for Wayne. Anyway, drinks were coming, and he's just drinking as if he's one of the seasoned pros. And I've gone, listen, that's enough now. And he's gone, I'll just have one more. I said, okay, one more, and that's enough. So anyway, the night's gone on, we got to about 12:30. Wayne was putting me in a taxi. So every now and then I'd have one of Wayne's, and I'd have mine, and he put me in a taxi at 12:30. We'd been out since 6 o'clock. He put me in a taxi, took me back to the hotel, took me to my room, put me in bed, and he got back in the taxi and come back home.
What did Moise say to you in the
He
morning?
didn't know anything about
Did you put him
it.
at bed?
No, I didn't. He said, everything go right last night, Stubbsy? I said, yeah, Gaffer said he was good as gold. He said, brilliant. Had a couple of drinks, let him have a couple, and that was it. That was Wayne.
So he was advanced in his years in every
aspect,
basically.
We had Mike Taylor. Mike Taylor's in goal.
He could qualify for the over 60s.
Yeah. Mike Taylor. We had Jude Bellingham's dad, Mark.
Oh yeah.
Probably
He played as well. Yeah.
He probably scored the most goals over 35.
Some
so
team, to be fair.
we had quite a few, and it was really good. It was great.
Nice.
A bunch of boys.
Well, he done well to win it with having Mike in goals.
Yeah. Well, he never dived. He's always too cold, always too wet. He was
played
too
with him
hard.
at
So
I thought they make it
Yeah,
by me,
yeah.
man.
Jude Bellingham ever come to watch?
you know
That
what, Jude and Jobe, it was incredible. Mark, the dad, he used to bring him every Sunday. They'll do the warm up with us. They'll do the warm up with the goalkeeper, passing, crossing, snow, rain, wind. They were always there. They were always there.
Quality. Love that.
Jude
Always
Bellingham
there.
learned his craft from
Stillian
Stillian
Petrov.
Well, I'm not sure if he learned his craft, but he was always
Few
there.
little bits and bobs.
Mark was really demanding from them to be there, to understand, to love football. Every Sunday, they were there everywhere. They were everywhere, which was great to see.
Actually, you've let him off the hook. You said he wasn't too bad. Are there any players over your career that you just thought gave you a hard time, or you had ongoing? Because you'll see the same players over and over. Now the teams meet so often, and you're involved. Any guys that were in your ear constantly?
Do you know who I always found really, really hard to referee in my early days? Alan Hutton. I always found him really, really hard to deal with. But my claim to fame is that Beckham gave me a really hard time in a friendly one night, Rangers AC Milan, and he came in at the end of the game and gave me his top and apologised. So that's my claim to fame.
Giving you a
Right,
hard
friendly.
friendly, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, what was it over? Do you remember what?
I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something about the Spice Girls or something. I don't know what it was.
That's us both get something in common with Beckham. I told you that one, didn't I? With the strip I got signed in America.
So you've both got Beckham strips.
Yes. Oh, mine's a classic though.
LA Galaxy, I take it.
Galaxy played them one night and asked, could I get the strip signed? Said to Robbie Keane, would you be able to get the strip signed? She said, yeah, I'll get it signed for you, no problem. Disappears with it and comes back. To Chris, best wishes are all the best, David Beckham. Chris, CH.
Oh, no,
yes.
I knew it was going to be.
Can I just get the pen out and try and change it?
They could
Done.
sell it on eBay.
I
to
just
someone
thought,
called
fair play. Absolute nobody. Brilliant.
You're still happy with that?
Oh,
Just-
amazing.
How did you do in that game? Do you remember?
Doesn't matter. He
I
gets
think we
Beckham
get beat.
strip.
We get beat 5-3.
Did you
I
score?
scored 2. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
At least he
yeah.
scored it.
Strikers don't care about the result.
And
They
so,
just
Willie, was there any
Beckham strips.
referees growing up that you looked at when you were coming up?
How does that work? Do referees have like refereeing idols?
Colina obviously is the big one that I always remember. as
He was a
kid.
boss.
He's
He was a boss at UEFA when I was there. I learned a lot from him. His experience, you know. I think he took refereeing to a different level in Europe. He's now in charge at FIFA.
In terms of professionalism.
I remember him saying, for example, Lloydie one night, he showed us a clip of the Champions League, the music playing and the camera panning across the lineup, and he said if you covered everybody up there, then nobody should know who the referees and who the players are, because he talked about image, he talked about athletes, he talked about fitness, and he was really big in all of that, you know. He was also great for bringing to refereeing, in my opinion, about tactical awareness. You know, he talks about refereeing the World Cup final in 2002, Germany-Brazil, locked himself in a room for 2 days watching VHS videotapes, cautioned 2 guys in the first 10 minutes, the rest of the game was in his back pocket, you know. So he brought a lot. When I was at Euro 2016, before you went to a game, 2 days before it, you would sit with the analyst and you would look at the tactics of the teams and everything, and that was just on a different level, you know. So I thought he brought a lot.
He was just catching up with what the old firm referees done here for years, wasn't he?
I'm thinking of all these big European nights, and there's so many. Jackie, it's a story that's been told a lot, I think, from various perspectives, when there's a bit of a rumble in the tunnel against Barcelona. But you're you captain that night, aren't you? So you're not like the peacemaker or the guy that has to go and deal with the.
Yeah. So the Barcelona game, which was, if anybody had caught Bobo, in any game, you know, there's a good chance he would get him in the tunnel. Would it be an Old Firm game or a friendly game, charity game? I'm serious. Even the charity games, the guy had burst his lip and he'd want to bar him. And so the Barcelona game, I think Motta had just caught him before it at a corner, and it was just a big melee there. I think Big Rab had kind of grabbed him away and tried to sort it, and it was kind of pushed up the tunnel, and we're sitting in the changing room, and then the referee came in and shouted the captain of Celtic into his room, and it was Puyol and for Barcelona, and he said to Puyol, you're number 4, I think it was Motta, red card, violent conduct, and he said to me, Celtic, you're number 20, and I honestly couldn't think.
Because you thought it was Bobo?
I thought it was Bobo. I'm going, Bobo's number 6, who's number 20? And I casually walked back into the changing room and looking for number 20 and seen it. I sent Rab, you're off. Big Rabby sent Big Rab off, and Martin's going ballistic. What? I said, he sent Rab off. He's like,
So had he done nothing close to
nothing?
A red card?
He's
defense?
a peacemaker.
He was a peacemaker, and just because he was doing that, which ultimately set Big David Marshall's career off. He was unbelievable in the return game as well, you know, everything he'd done, but that started his whole career. But it was passionate, you know, but Bobo was like that Champions League game, a charity game that we played, as I said. He was wanting to leather the guy for bursting his lip. I had his blood on my strap, and I was like, oh no. I was like, get him away.
That's a good sliding doors moment, that way. So if the ref doesn't have mistaken identity, David Marshall all of a sudden isn't potentially.
And it was a big panic. I remember at the time, it was a big panic that what's Celtic going to do goalkeeper wise, like you're talking about the young players coming on last night, and then Marsh, what a performance! I don't think MD seen it coming, but
it was incredible.
It was, and for him as well, that probably cements your feeling of I could be a Celtic goalie.
Going back to that point, when I signed there, I thought, look at these players: World Cup winner, Serie A winner, Champions League winner. They'd won everything. I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus, I could be my depth here.
How impressed you? Sorry, I was going to say, who impressed you the most? Who's the one guy that you thought that's the level?
There's so many.
I mean, there must be so many, but is there any that just initially?
Listen, I saw Andy Muller going by Jens Lehmann like the roadrunner with the ball, and I thought, what the hell was that? It was like lightning, and I went, this guy's unbelievable. And then all of a sudden, I started to get to know him. I started to play him. Julio Cesar. Julio was 64 caps for Brazil.
He was an animal, wasn't he?
Honestly, I used to change. I used to change in the dressing room. And Julio was trained, but Julio would never break sweat, you know. And Julio used to hold his hand up like that. You could never move his hand. He'd just keep the ball here, and he was a mountain. And I thought, this guy doesn't break sweat. So the first few mornings I came into training, I was knackered. The legs are dead sore. I'm sitting there like agony. And Julio would come in, and I wouldn't see what he was wearing. Right, I was doing the gym. After training, he'd come in. And next thing I see this big guy, suit on, tie. He'd go to the mirror and he'd just go like with the wee line in his hair like that, dripping with diamonds and everything, smelling unbelievable. And all he'd turn around and go at me, Paul Bismorgan. And away he'd go. This is unbelievable. That's 64 caps for Brazil. This guy is unbelievable. So my first home game was against Dusseldorf. We beat him 4-0 again. My legs were agony. We did the grass burns at that time, you know. You get into a bath and you know it's like getting into a bath with grass burn. Oh, aye, 100%. I've got, jeez. Just at that, the steam rises off the bath. Next thing I think, smell smoke in here. Couldn't see anybody, and the steam goes off the bath. And Julie was sitting at the back of the bath like that with a cigarette.
That's the secret.
Unbelievable, man. Yeah. How are these guys doing it, man? Every one of them were bang on it. But
just genetics, innit? They're just built different, some of these guys.
But every one of them were like that. They all trained the way they played. Brilliant guys. Stephen the same. You think? Train animals at training, but they took it into the game, and I thought, for me to get a chance here to play, that's what I'm going to have to do.
Who'd you get at the Juventus
Pirlo.
game after that?
Pirlo, I swapped with Pirlo. I ran a man marked him about 92 minutes, 92 and a half minutes. I knew the ball was going to go out. We were 3-0 down. I thought, right, when this whistle goes, he's getting the headlock, and I'm going to ask. And to be fair, he put my top on after it. And
did you swap on the pitch then? And
yeah, I asked him for it.
Did you really see that?
But then I went in the changing room to get it signed. But they were like, whoa, wee man, I'm not getting through here. So I've got it signed. I've walked out and Buffon's walked by me, full suit on, Dolce Gabbana tie, and he just went like, ciao, ciao. And I was just in love. Just looking at him as if I'm a spotty wee 18-year-old and he's a big, groomed, good-looking Italian, full suit, looking perfect. And he was like, ciao, ciao. And I just
love the thought that Pirlo's get this Tony Watt strip somewhere.
Yeah, that'd be pride of
He's
place.
probably got it at the end of his garage for every time he shines his wheels. He just uses
another
that.
strip, when I was at Ayr United, we played Celtic in the semi-final, and I asked Henrik for his strip, and the game finished, never fought. Bang on the door, and you come, there's a strip. It wasn't for me, it was for, Scott Crabbit used to play for me, Crabble. He says, if you can get a chance to get Henrik strip for my laddie. She says, aye, so
that's not a bad list, though.
I know.
The two that you receive are Gaza and...
I know, by the way, high bar.
But still, just getting it is pretty cool.
I mean, seriously, rock star footballer, the front cover of NME.
Yeah, it was unheard of. At the time, I'd been massive into U2 around about 79. I'd seen them in Glasgow, and they were a backup band then. And there was only about 7 or 8 of us in the old... it was Old Tiffany's we used to go to. And then I kind of followed them, but I followed my music a lot. I was big still into Simple Minds, but U2 was the band, and Psychedelic Furs, different bands that I liked. And the music industry guys in London were very, very kind of clear that they wanted to talk to somebody in football who was associated with music. And I thought, everybody is. All players like music. It was just a matter of being out there with something a little bit different. But I ended up where I lived in London, the guys who used to go to a local pub. So there was Phil Collins, there was Sting, there was the Spandau Ballet Boys, and then there was the Duran Boys.
Hold the bus.
It was just like everybody was living in this area in Highgate. So you're kind of associated into the music industry because you know these guys. So you're invited to the parties, you're invited to real seriously good parties. So that's how it kind of just explodes into.
And he's thinking maybe one day I'll sit with Gordon Duncan and Sam North and talk about haircuts in a freezing cold studio.
He's made it now.
Any good stories from those parties? Maybe I might regret asking that.
No, there's a lot of privacy that stays on their trip. I'm happily married and things like that now, so I couldn't embarrass myself after all those photographs. I've been punished by my 2 daughters for years and years and years about doing those things, and I've been trying to make an allowance for it, but
make amends.
There you go.
I feel bad that we've
that's one of my proudest, though. I was absolutely delighted to make it in front of
them. Cool, isn't it? Is it because you were in London then? Do you think you'd have had them opportunities if you'd have gone to Liverpool, Man United? It was just because you were in that area?
No, I think it was London. I think it was definitely London, because the following week actually was the first time I met U2, and that was all through the music industry that you started to meet all these top guys.
Most famous person you've met?
Probably Bono. Yeah, probably Bono, I would have to say. I mean, I was surprised how small he was.
That's what people say about us when they meet.
But he was quite small. People would always say that we kind of looked alike when we were younger. Maybe it was a mullet, or maybe it was just the silly dress sense that we both had. But we had, and it was just a moment that we met each other and just clicked. I called him Paul Hewson. I didn't want to go and be bold enough to call him Bono. So it was a magical moment.
Nice.
Yeah.